Welcome to I Can Add Integers. If you are following along with your Glencoe Course 3 textbook, it is going to be starting on page 41. Remember, integers are your positive and negative numbers, and now if we're going to be adding them together, we need to know some things because they can be a little tricky thinking about numbers that we can't actually see. I like to think of negative numbers as owing or a deficit. The sign of a number, whether it's positive or negative, has a meaning. So if you try to attach that meaning to these simple expressions or equations, it may help you. So notice here it just shows you an example of negative 2 plus negative 4 plus negative 3, and we end up at negative 9. This is showing that when you add numbers that are of the same sign, so you add 3 negatives together, this is adding now, you are getting more negative. Say that negative represents borrowing. If you keep borrowing money from someone, you end up owing them much more. So if I owe you negative 2 and then I borrow 4 more, I'm at negative 6, and then I borrow 3 more, now I'm at owing you 9. Okay? So one thing we want to notice is, what is the sign of the number that we're adding together? As you follow along, remember that you pause when it's appropriate for you. If you feel like you are chasing what I'm trying to say and write and scrambling to write things down, make sure you pause and do what works best for you. You may pause occasionally throughout, or you may just watch to the end of a page and then pause once everything's there and reflect on what you've learned. Here is going to be something that you want to write down eventually. And this is looking at just a rule, okay? So this is adding integers when you have the same sign. So when numbers you're adding are both positive or numbers you're adding are both negative. So when you're adding numbers with the same sign, what you're actually going to do is keep the sign of those numbers and then add their absolute values. So essentially you're going to say, what sign are these numbers? Keep the sign and then add them just as you always would have. So notice negative 7 and negative 3. We keep the sign since they're both negative and make our sum a negative. 7 plus 3 is 10. So we have an answer of negative 10. 4 and 5 are both positive numbers, so our sum will be positive. 4 plus 5 is 9. So again, maybe you want to follow along. Maybe you want to pause and try this one on your own and then come back and see how you did. So if you want to find negative 4 and negative 2, you say, oh, I'm adding them, and the sum is going to have the same sign because these numbers have the same sign. A negative and a negative, you're just getting more negative. 4 plus 2 is 6. So the sum of negative 4 and negative 2 is negative 6. Again, you can pause here, try them on your own, and come back. So you look first, same sign. Yes, they're both negative. I should be getting more negative. 3 plus 2 is 5. So negative 3 plus negative 2 is negative 5. Part B, both are positive. So my answer is going to be positive. And normally you won't write the positive sign. 1 plus 5 is 6. Negative 5 and negative 4. You're adding the same sign, so your sum will have the same sign. 5 plus 4 is 9, so negative 5 plus negative 4 is negative 9. Okay, so there's a different rule as well. What about if I'm trying to add a positive and a negative and their signs are different? To add integers with different signs, you are actually going to end up subtracting the one that's smaller from the one that has the greater absolute value. So remember, in absolute value is the number of units away from 0. So in this case, 8 plus negative 3. Positive 8 is more than negative 3 and actually has a greater absolute value. 8 is 8 units away from 0. Negative 3 is only 3 units from 0. So when you look at them, you say, okay, different signs, I'm going to find the difference. I'm going to subtract. So I have positive 8 and negative 3. I have more positives, so my answer is positive. How many more? So you take 3 away from 8, and you get a value of 5. Same thing here on the right. -8, and 3. -8 is 8 units from 0. 3 is 3 units from 0. So -8 has a greater absolute value. So my sum of this is going to be negative. I keep the sign of the larger number. So I'm going to take 3 away from the absolute value of 8, and it's still a difference of 5. For my visual learners, something that's going to be good to do is know that a positive and negative cancel each other out. If I owe you $1 and then I pay you back that $1, I'm back at 0. I'm not owing anything and I don't have anything. So what I like to do for this is show what this represents. So say my red equals negative numbers. So I have 8 single negatives. 6, 7, 8. I also have 3 positive. 1, 2, 3. Well, 1 and -1 cancel for 0. 1 and -1 are 0. 1 and -1 are 0. So when I combine those, I'm left with that -5. So I know there are counter availables in class that can help you if that's something that you need. So again, give these a try. Adding integers with different signs. So first of all, I notice the signs are different. Which do I have more of? So the absolute value of 5 is 5. The absolute value of -2 is 2. There are more positives than negatives, so my sum will be positive. How many more is 5 than 2? So I take 2 away, and I end up with 3. Again, if you need that visual, let's see, I have 5 positives, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm adding 2 negatives to that. And what I get is, left over, a positive 3. Maybe try this next one with the counters first if you need to. So I see -4. Maybe I owe someone $4, and I give them 3. What is my remaining balance? Those 3 are going to cancel out, and I'm left with -1, which makes sense because 4 has a larger absolute value than 3, so I'm going to keep the sign of that larger absolute value. 4 is 1 more than 3, so value of -1. Give these ones a try. Find which one has a larger absolute value. 7 is 7 units away. -5 is only 5. So I'm going to keep the sign of my positive, my larger number. How many more is 7 than 5? That's really just taking 5 away from 7, which is a value of 2. -6 and 4. -6 has a greater absolute value, so I'm going to keep the negative sign. 6 is 2 more than 4, so this is a sum of -2. Again, I'm going to show you that visual with the numbers on this one. So I have +4, -6. Positives and negatives cancel each other out. Notice visually you can tell I'm left with -2. -1 and 8. 8 has a greater absolute value, so I'm going to keep that positive. How many more is 8 than 1? Oops. And it is 7. Target just wanted to pop in the video there quick. Surprise! All right, one more thing. What if we're adding more than 2 numbers together? Okay, 2 numbers with the same absolute value but different signs are called opposites, just like we talked about. So that -1 and that 1, they're going to cancel each other out because they're additive inverses. So these are some nice words that you're going to need to know. -2 and 2 are opposites. They are an equal distance from 0 on a number line. Opposites are equal distance from 0 on a number line. And when we add them together, they cancel each other out. So that's additive inverse. So the sum of any number and its additive inverse is 0. 7 and -7, 0. X and -x is 0. Just like we looked at with those dots, they go to 0, and that's why they go away. So if we wanted to find -4 plus -12 plus 4, normally we would go -4 plus -12 first, and then add 4 after that. But one thing you might notice is that -4 and 4 are opposites, so they're going to cancel each other out. So then what you're left with is only that -12. I'm struggling with this mouse today. Hopefully that makes sense, though, that you're going to be left with, after you cancel those out, just that -12. So you could try down here. Maybe we'll try one where we do add across, maybe not. So 33 and -33. Some of you might say, I know they're opposites, cross them out, and see that you're just left with 16. Some of you might go right away and add these together for 49, then add that to a -33, and use, different signs. So I have a positive and a negative. 49's absolute value is greater than -33's, so my sum is going to be positive. And then you would end up subtracting how many more is 49 then 33, and you get 16. So again, notice looking for those opposites first might help. Otherwise, you still end up back there. To the right, okay. What I might do, since addition can go in any order, I might add my positives together first. So 3 plus 6, which is 9. Since the same sign, I know they're going to be a positive. And then add my same sign negatives together, -2 and -10. It's -12. Now I have different signs. -12 has a greater absolute value, so I keep the negative. 12 is 3 more than 9. So there are 3 more negatives left over when I add those two together. All right, so some things to keep in mind. Try to add, if you're not sure if your answer makes sense, think about situations, owing money, having money, giving things, taking things, positive and negative. Give them a situation and it might be a little easier for you. Remember, same sign, keep the sign, find the sum, different signs, take the larger absolute value and find the difference. Different signs, difference. See you soon. Good luck.